Hello, my sensational students. Welcome to Bloom and Grow Education. My name is Meredith. Today's lesson is suitable for Year 5 or Year 6 students who are preparing for the Gifted and Talented test. It's a reading comprehension lesson, and we are going through the answers to one of the reading comprehension sample tests that the Department of Education has provided to you. So we're going to be having a look at self-driving cars. These texts and these questions, they're all freely available to you on the Department of Education website. I will put a link in the description for you. The answers are already there. The service that I'm providing to you is that it's no good you knowing that you got the answer right or wrong if you don't know why it's wrong and how you can get it right next time. And it's also useful to have some skills around multiple choice for when you're like, well, I don't know what the answer is, and you sort of have to give your best guess. So that's the activity that we're going to be doing today. What you need to do is to read through self-driving cars and answer the questions 13 through 17. This will be linked in the description for you. So you can follow the link, print it off and highlight and write straight onto the piece of paper. Or if you don't have access to a printer, you can simply just write down 13A, 14B, 15C onto a piece of paper, and then we'll go through the answers. So either way is completely fine. So we're going to pause the video now, read the text, answer the questions, come back, and we'll go through the answers together. Okay, let's read through self-driving cars together. I'm going to have to make this a bit bigger because my eyes are getting old. Self-driving cars. In a recent survey, 9 Fremantle residents were asked what they thought about self-driving cars being used in Australia. Below are their responses. You would have to be stupid to hand over control of your driving to a mindless computer. 2. A lot of people still drive recklessly and use mobile phones while driving. Self-driving cars will eliminate these dangerous practices. Eliminate means remove or stop. 3. The disabled, the sick, and the elderly will have more freedom and mobility, the ability to move around, if they don't have to rely on public transportation or assistance from others to get around. 4. People should have the right to choose whether they drive a car themselves or are driven by the car. 5. Computers don't get distracted or tired or angry. If a computer controls the car, it will make very quick and accurate calculations to avoid problems. 6. The police will be able to shift their focus from writing speeding tickets to other areas of need. 7. With a self-driving car, you won't need a driver's license, driving experience, or any special ability to be out on the road. 8. Self-driving cars will destroy many jobs in the transportation sector, especially in the freight transportation or truck driving and taxi industry. So people who drive trucks and taxis won't have jobs anymore. 9. If a self-driving car is programmed to avoid hitting pedestrians, people on the street, who is at fault if the car swerves and hits a house? The driver, the pedestrians, or maybe the car's manufacturer's fault? Maybe it's the car's manufacturer's fault, so the people who built the car. Okay, let's have a look at question 13. Which one of the following responses elaborates on the point made in response to? So elaborates means gives you more information. Now, this is quite tricky because your brain sort of has to go, all right, 2, 1, 4, 5, 9. So the way that I found this easiest to do is to write down 1, 4, 5, and 9. Or if you've got the 2 pieces of paper next to each other, you wouldn't have to do that. And then let's go back and have a look. So number 2, so which one gives us more information about number 2? Number 2 is a lot of people still drive recklessly, which means carelessly. They speed and they don't stop for stop signs and they run the red light. So they do dangerous things and use mobile phones while driving. Self-driving cars will eliminate, stop, prevent these dangerous practices. So which one of 1, 4, 5, or 9 is like that? Number 1, you would have to be stupid to hand over control of your driving to a mindless computer. That's not really the same. That's saying self-driving cars are bad. So it's probably not 1. Let's look at 4. People should have the right to choose whether they drive a car themselves or are driven by the car. Again, that's not the same because it is looking at your choice. Let's have a look at 5. Computers don't get distracted or tired or angry. If a computer controls the car, it will make very quick and accurate calculations to avoid problems. Now, that one's sounding good. It's about avoiding problems, and this one is about stopping dangerous practices or avoiding problems. But let's just double check 9. If a self-driving car is programmed to avoid hitting pedestrians, who is at fault if the car swerves and hits a house? The driver, the pedestrians, or the manufacturer? That one is similar in that it's also about something going wrong, but this one is really about fault or blame when something goes wrong. Whereas 5 is about the computer's programming to not make mistakes. The computer doesn't care that you are running late, and so it thinks you should speed. The computer doesn't care that the computer wasn't distracted by the child in the back seat throwing a ball into the front seat, and it's paying attention, so it sees when the dog runs across the road and is able to slam on the brakes. So because the computer isn't distracted, it's not emotional, it's always making accurate decisions. That's what those two are about. Self-driving cars will eliminate dangerous practices because they're not driving recklessly and being distracted, which is the same as they don't get distracted or tired or angry. So the correct answer there is C, 13C. Response 5 is the same as response 2. Let's have a look at 14. Which one of the following responses makes a similar argument to response 3? 2, 4, 6, and 7. Let's go back and have a look at response 3. The disabled, the sick, and the elderly will have more freedom and mobility, the ability to move around, if they don't have to rely on public transportation or assistance from others to get around. So, for example, when people get into their 80s and their responses slow down and their eyesight deteriorates, often they willingly hand in their driver's license because they know that they're not safe to be on the road anymore. And if they had a self-driving car, then it wouldn't matter that they couldn't see where they were going because the car can see where they're going. Or it doesn't matter that you don't have 2 arms to be able to control the steering wheel because the car's controlling the steering wheel. So we're looking at what ideas are like that. So 2, a lot of people still drive recklessly and use mobile phones while driving. Self-driving cars will eliminate these dangerous practices. So we just looked at that one. That one's not about helping people. It's about eliminating dangerous practices. 4, people should have the right to choose whether they drive a car themselves or are driven by the car. So that's about their right to choose, not about equal access to driving. 6, the police will be able to shift their focus from writing speeding tickets to other areas of need. So this will be about what the police are doing. It's not about the ability for the sick and injured and elderly to be able to move around. So let's hope it's 7. With a self-driving car, you won't need a driver's license, driving experience, or any special ability to be out on the road. So correct answer is 7. And if we think about it, so an elderly person might decide to hand in their driver's license because they know they're not safe. A person who only has one leg because they have a disability would need to have a specially created car so that they can control it with only one leg. So any special ability to be out on the road. It would mean that things like children, say, I mean, I'm sure they would put age limits on this, but say a 15-year-old is trying to get to TAFE, there are no bus routes, no train routes, so you could put them in the self-driving car, and it doesn't matter that they don't have a driver's license because the car can get them there. It doesn't matter that they don't have experience on the road because the car can get them there. So that idea is the same. So you not needing to have a driver's license or special abilities is the same as not requiring those special abilities because not having those special abilities because you're disabled or elderly or what have you. So the correct answer there is D, 14D. Response 6 implies. So tells you but doesn't tell you. So implies means that it's a little bit like an inference. They're telling you, but they're not actually using those words. You sort of have to read between the lines. So let's go back and have a look at 6. The police will be able to shift their focus from writing speeding tickets to other areas of need. So if people aren't on the road breaking the rules by writing, by speeding, and therefore the police have to write speeding tickets, they can put it in their time into catching jewelry thieves and I don't know, the other things that police do, making sure that we're safe and well looked after in our country, which is what they're already doing. But so it means that they would have more time to be able to do that rather than policing the people who drive recklessly on the road by speeding. So what idea is like that? So police will be able to shift their focus from writing speeding tickets to other areas. Response 6 implies that self-driving cars will be disliked by police. Well, the police will like the cars if it means that it stops speeding tickets and car accidents and all those kinds of things. So the police will like the cars. Self-driving cars will be safer than the cars we have now. That sounds good. Let's keep on going, though. Less powerful than the cars that we have now. Well, it's not so much about whether they're powerful or not. It's about how fast they're going. And one would assume that they would have to be able to do 100 or 110 to be able to go safely on the road, to be able to pass the requirements to be safe on the road. So if you've ever been driving down the freeway at 100 and some little old nanny is driving there at 50 and it creates a traffic jam and everybody gets frustrated and people aren't paying attention and people are changing lanes, and it's actually safer for everybody to be doing 100 than to have to maneuver around this old lady doing 50. So the cars would be required to be able to do 100 or 110 so that they can move safely on the roads. So they would need to be powerful. So it's not C. Harder for the police to monitor than the cars we have now. Well, in some ways, it would be easier for the cars to be monitored because they would have computer chips in them, just like cars do right now, where it records everything that happens. So if you're driving at 200 kilometers an hour and you burst out all of your wheels and you try to go to the insurance company and say, oh, I need to claim on my insurance, then they can look at your speedo, the records in your speedo, and go, well, you were driving at 200 kilometers an hour. That's illegal. We're not going to allow you to claim on your car. So we already have that. And the police would like that because it means that they can use it to enforce the law. Well, here's the evidence that you were breaking the law. So that brings us back to safer than the cars we have now, 15B. So because the cars will be safer because they can't speed and run red lights and run stop signs and accidentally hit pedestrians, the police will no longer need to put their time into writing speeding tickets, which is the connection between 6. Which is the connection with the 6, I should say. Okay, 16. Responses 6 and 8 each suggest that self-driving cars will. 6. The police will be able to shift their focus from writing speeding tickets to other areas of need. Self-driving cars will destroy many jobs in the transportation sector, especially in the freight transportation, truck driving, or taxi industries. So 6 we just talked about. It means that the police will be able to do other things. What 8 is saying is that truck drivers and taxi drivers, so people whose job it is to drive, won't have a job anymore because robots will be doing it. So it'd be like back in the day when in factories, people controlled the factories, and now robots control the factories. So people have lost their job because a robot is doing it now. So we don't want people losing their jobs, because then how do they feed their children? So responses 6 and 8 suggest that self-driving cars will be beneficial for society overall. Well, it's not going to benefit society overall for the truck drivers and the taxi drivers. They're not going to have a job anymore. So it's not going to be benefiting them. Have a mostly negative impact on society. Well, if the police aren't writing speeding tickets anymore, then that's a positive impact. It's only going to have a negative impact on the truck drivers and the taxi drivers, which is only a small proportion of the society. So it's not going to be a mostly negative impact. It's going to be a slightly negative impact. Have an impact on society beyond road safety. Let's come back to that one. Have an impact on society that no one can predict. Well, this in itself is a prediction. They are predicting that police's jobs are going to change, truck drivers, taxi drivers are going to lose their jobs. So they can predict what the future is going to be like to the extent that we can ever predict what the future is going to be like. You know, the self-driving cars might turn into transformers and take over the world. So we don't know what, we can't make a total prediction, because that's the nature of predictions, but we can make informed guesses. So that brings us back to C, which is the correct answer. Have an impact on society beyond road safety. So a lot of the other points we're talking about, you know, not speeding, not driving recklessly, not getting distracted. Those things are about road safety. But aside from road safety, there are other things that are going to be happening. So people are going to lose their jobs. The police are going to be able to use their time more efficiently. 15-year-olds are going to be able to get to TAFE. The elderly and the sick are going to be able to get to their doctor's appointments. So there are things happening beyond just road safety. 9 suggests a need for. If a self-driving car is programmed to avoid hitting pedestrians, people on the street, who is at fault or to blame if the car swerves and hits a house? The driver, the pedestrian, or maybe it's the car's manufacturer's fault. So the car is driving along, suddenly a child races out after their ball. The car is programmed to not hit the child, so it swerves off and hits a house. Now, who is to blame? Somebody needs to pay for the damage to the car and the damage to the house. Is it the driver's fault? Is it the car's fault? Is it the child's fault? Is it the manufacturer's fault? The people who created the car. So who is at blame? Who's going to pay for this car and this house to be fixed? So 9 suggests a need for human control over vehicles. So to maintain the current system where humans are the ones driving the cars. Well, that kind of thing happens already. And we have, well, it would be the fault of the driver, it's not their fault, but the car driver's insurance would be the ones who pay out for it. More protective road barriers. Now that might solve the problem, but you can't have road barriers every single place that you go. Otherwise you wouldn't be able to get off roads. Better safety technology in road vehicles. Well, you would hope that the very best safety technology it has been put into these road vehicles when we find them, when we purchase them, especially if it's going to be self-driving. Well-defined laws relating to responsibility. This is the correct answer. So who is at fault? So we need to know, the law needs to be able to say it's the driver, it's the pedestrian, it's the manufacturer. Who is at fault here? So it's a little bit like with things like social media. So social media exploded and became super popular, and even the internet, but let's just focus on social media, before the laws could really catch up with it. So the government being able to process laws, these things take a long time, and social media and computer development doesn't take a long time. They happen far more quickly in a relative sense. So there were problems with people with things like cyberbullying, people putting inappropriate content online, people doing lots of inappropriate things, which I don't want to get into right now. And there weren't laws there to protect people, because the government wasn't keeping up. So now most of those laws have come in. But what would need to happen is that before the self-driving cars were allowed on the road, the government would need to put these kinds of laws in place beforehand, so we can learn from those experiences, so that the law is saying, well, it's the car's fault or it's the pedestrian's fault in these circumstances, so it's nice and clear. That's basically what that one is about. So correct answer there was D. All right, that brings me to the end of this lesson. There are 6 videos in this series, and there are also a bunch of other preparation videos for Year 6 GATE for reading and for writing. So if that's the direction that you're heading in, please head over to my YouTube channel and check out the rest of the videos. I'll link some in the description below. If you could please like this video, it would really help me out, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. That also really helps me out. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you at the next lesson.